Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hivemind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left, and that's exactly what we gotta do on this video. So I already made a video covering what I thought about the riots. Let's be honest, that's what it was. The siege of the Capitol was in fact a riot. I've said my piece on that already to all elements involved. I do not condone the actions beyond just peaceably assembling. And I'm sure most of you guys agree with that. Most of you guys are probably standing on my side when it comes to that perspective, that clearly the optics weren't good and the media is just gonna run with it. But with that said, that's probably one of the most important elements that we have to talk about, the absolute hypocrisy of leftist media, the Democrat establishment, for all of a sudden grandstanding about riots. It's the exact same notion that we covered forever when it comes to the BLM and Antifa riots that lasted for over 100 days. It didn't matter, and they wouldn't condemn the violence unless it was politically expedient to them, or unless it affected them, unless it was in their neighborhood, unless they were the target. They didn't condemn the violence, and in some cases, they even egged it on. They justified it. They funded it. And like most people, it's real rich hearing the rhetoric that's coming out of some of their mouths lately. Real rich. Of course, the best part of the internet is it's basically a time machine, and we can go back to archived posts. We have the receipts just to prove exactly how disingenuous the Democrats really are in their political actions to all of a sudden condemn violence after they egged it on for however many months. And so that's exactly what we're gonna do. Let's expose the abundant, the absolute hypocrisy, the double standard when it comes to left-wing riots as opposed to right-wing. So we gotta get into it, but before we do, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. Now with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright, so the first thing that must be said here is that objectively, from whatever perspective you're looking at this from, what we saw on January 6th pales in comparison to what we saw over the last couple months. And we're supposed to act real shocked as if it's something we've never seen before. We've seen it before, and we've seen much worse. Let's initially go back to the confirmation of Judge Kavanaugh, or the hearing. We know what happened during that hearing. Left-wing protesters slamming on the door, trying to breach in, and the left wing called it courageous. They said they were standing up for democracy, flip political persuasion, and all of a sudden, it's a completely different story, a different narrative. This will put it right into perspective. German Lopez from Vox writes, "Riots are destructive, dangerous, and scary, but can lead to serious social reforms. To prevent more violent uprisings and protests, we need to take their causes seriously." That was on September 22nd, 2016. Now let's go to January 6th, 2021, once again from German Lopez at Vox. "Every person who forced their way into the Capitol should be arrested, lock them all up." A different tune, to say the least. We've got this meme that's been going all over the place with actual quotes from Democrat leaders. Ayanna Pressley says, "There needs to be unrest in the streets." Kamala Harris says protesters should not let up. This is of course during the burning of buildings, destruction of small business and property, multiple deaths, and mass assaults across the streets. Maxine Waters famously said, "If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and create a crowd. You push back on them. You tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere." Nancy Pelosi on record saying, "I just don't know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be." Nancy Pelosi also famously saying, "People will do what they do" when questioned about the attack on monuments. Rules for thee and rules for me. Rules for conservatives and rules for Democrats. It's a very clear dynamic, which is why I get incredibly frustrated anytime any right-winger acts out of line, because we understand that they control all institutions of culture, information, and media. Lockdown protests, storming town halls, civil disobedience every single time from the right wing is used as a political tool to win elections every single time. Meanwhile, on the other side, they can just overtly be complete hypocrites. They can just lie and get away with it. Speaking of a lie from a left-wing host, here's Anna Kasparian. "I'm not interested in hearing any of the glib comments minimizing what happened yesterday. A group of armed domestic terrorists. There's been absolutely no evidence of people storming in with guns whatsoever. In fact, those storming the Capitol are the ones who were shot in the first place." Let's continue. She says, "Domestic terrorists broke into the Capitol building where every US lawmaker was trying to do their jobs. Clearly, the cops were unprepared and even encouraged it." The last statement I absolutely agree with, and I do agree that the storming of the Capitol was absolutely wrong, and I think most conservatives and most people who are part of the populist movement don't stand for that kind of rioting. We've condemned it unequivocally for months. But Anna Kasparian can get over here, grandstand, after she said nothing when it came to BLM and left-wing violence, downplayed it, lied about it, and then she can spin the whole thing, lie, and say that people were armed and storming the Capitol with guns, and no one even bats an eye. Who remembers this famous tweet from AOC? "The whole point of protesting is to make people uncomfortable." AOC said those who were enacting violence on the streets were just trying to steal bread. She encouraged and egged on riots across the country for months, promoted bail funds, but then all of a sudden, when she can attack the other side, she comes out with a tweet like this. "Senator Cruz, you must accept responsibility for your craven self-serving actions contributed to the deaths of 4 people yesterday, and how you fundraised off this riot. Speaking of fundraising off a riot, give me an absolute break, AOC. Her and all of her left-wing compatriots did that exact thing. The amount of money that was raised during the BLM riots was absolutely monumental in political history. Then she says, both you and Senator Hawley must resign. If you do not, the Senate should move for your expulsion. Talk about a stretch. Ted Cruz, following the will of his constituents, had absolutely nothing to do with contributing to the loss of 4 lives. It had absolutely nothing to do with the incitement of violence. Neither did any of the president's claims. Ted Cruz responds, AOC, you are a liar. Leading a debate in the Senate on ensuring election integrity is doing our jobs, and it's no way responsible for the despicable terrorists who attacked the Capitol yesterday. And sorry, I ain't going anywhere when you and your socialist buddies try to massively raise taxes, when you try to pass the Green New Deal and destroy millions of jobs, when you push for amnesty, when you try to pack the Supreme Court with activists to undermine our constitutional rights. I will fight that every step and stand with the people. They are absolute hypocrites, folks. Let's stick on the same line of far lefties and their total double standard when it comes to political violence. Here's a video made by Vosh a little bit over a month ago. The thumbnail says, this could be us, but you plan. Guatemalan protesters literally light Congress on fire. If that's not a call to violence, if that's not enabling violence and inciting violence, I don't know what is, especially after Antifa and BLM had burnt the country to the ground for months on end with nearly no repercussion, attacked a federal courthouse for days upon days upon days, weeks upon weeks, as they all stood by and cheered it on. But then, of course, after the events on January 6th, here's Vosh's perspective. Pay very close to the, quote, freedom-loving, law-respecting conservative figures who are fighting tooth and nail to defend a terrorist act on our Capitol buildings. All of a sudden, Vosh is a law and order guy defending the Capitol buildings and the federal government. And also, I haven't necessarily seen any conservative figures who are fighting tooth and nail to defend a terrorist attack on our Capitol buildings. In fact, I've seen pretty much unanimous condemnation of the actions perpetrated. I've seen a lot of deflection of blame as well, but I'm pretty sure most people are standing on the side that what happened was wrong and condemning violence, including myself. And it's all rich, considering here's another tweet from Vosh. Democracies cannot coexist with these people. They disappear, or we all do. Once again, what seems to be a call to violence. Talk about total hypocrisy, let's continue. This from the Washington Free Beacon. House Democrats unanimously block resolution condemning violence and rioting. Resolution also decried efforts to defund the police. This was back from June 25th, 2020, where the Democrats were refusing and unanimously blocked a resolution to condemn violence and rioting. It took months and months and months of violence on the streets, the destruction of property to the tune of nearly $3 billion in insurance claims, hundreds of millions of dollars in Portland and Kenosha and Seattle, to get a Democrat to even say, I condemn violence. The only time they actually came out and condemned the violence was when the issue started popping up in focus groups and started hurting their political ambitions. That's the only time they actually stood up for the right thing. And now we're sitting here listening to their lectures, once again in such a condescending manner, as if they're the side, the party of law and order and condemning violence. It's an absolute joke. And of course, they're elitist Democrats, so they have to do it in an elitist, condescending, patronizing manner. Check out this headline right over here. Multimillionaire Vanderbilt heir Anderson Cooper is branded a snob for saying the MAGA mob rioters will, quote, go back to Olive Garden and to the Holiday Inn that they're staying at to celebrate their attack on the Capitol. Absolutely despicable, folks. Anderson Cooper, part of the same network that said this not too long ago.
Now, too many see the protests as the problem. No, the problem is what forced your fellow citizens to take to the streets. Persistent and poisonous inequities and injustice. And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
And so I think this is probably something that we can all connect on. There's a lot of infighting happening within the Republican world right now. People are standing on different sides of the issue, especially when it comes to whether or not this was a false flag situation. But I think one place we have to stand together is calling out this overt hypocrisy, the overt double standard that continues within the media, within the elitist sphere. Call out this opportunistic, political grandstanding, hyper-partisanship that serves for nothing but demonizing, attacking, and causing further chaos and further division within the political landscape. Joe Biden and his team calling for unity, tech companies trying to solve the issues with banning and censorship. They're doing nothing but making things worse, and maybe it's by design. Political violence is bad no matter what side does it, and that, from my perspective, is just an objective truth. And so on this channel, we will remain consistent and call it out on both sides and call out the absolute frauds, the partisan hacks who have one standard for themselves and another standard for their political enemies. So that's a video that I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, please make sure sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. Now, I gotta get back to work, folks. There's one more video I gotta make calling out the abundant hypocrisy of the left, so I'm gonna get to that. I wanna thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.